Nobody planned for it to look like this. Not the producers, not the league, not even NBC. This was supposed to be simple. A quick segment, a cute crossover moment. Look, the college star is here. Smile, wave, talk for 2 minutes, leave. That's what everyone expected. Instead, by the end of the night, the entire building felt different. Phones were buzzing. Executives were whispering. Veterans were staring at the screen like they'd just seen something they weren't meant to see. Because somehow, in less than 2 hours, Caitlin Clark didn't look like a guest. She looked like the main event. And that's where the problem started. It began quietly. No breaking news, no dramatic intro. Just a normal NBA broadcast on NBC Sports. Highlights rolling. Crowd noise humming. Analysts joking around. Then the host said her name casually. Joining us tonight, Caitlin Clark. Simple. Harmless. Except it wasn't. The second the camera cut to her, the energy shifted. You could feel it. Not hype, not excitement, but something heavier, something uncomfortable. Like the room suddenly realized this wasn't supposed to happen yet. She wasn't supposed to be here. Not this fast. Not this big. Not on this stage. But there she was, calm, relaxed, no nerves, no rookie awkwardness, sitting between veteran analysts like she'd been doing this for 10 years. And here's the part no one expected. She didn't act impressed. She didn't look grateful. And she didn't behave like someone who'd just been invited onto the biggest basketball stage in America. She carried herself like she belonged.
The NBA players on set, I'm going to wear stilts next time you see her there with Carmelo and Reggie Miller. And that's with Reggie Miller saying he's the third best shooter in the state of Indiana right now.
There's a new shooter from Indiana. See, I'm the third best shooter in the state of Indiana now. It goes Caitlin, Tyrese, and now myself.
We'll have to get Tyrese's opinion on that. I'm not sure Tyrese would agree.
So there you go. Caitlin talking about that, poking fun at the appearance. That was one of the first things that stood out. Then there was the important question, which came later in the broadcast about the CBA. And one thing you have to like about it is Caitlin Clark was confident.
She talked like she owned the space, breaking down pick and roll coverages, calling out defensive mistakes, even correcting the host and former players. She wasn't trying to fit in. She sounded like someone who already belonged. Viewers noticed immediately. Social media started moving fast. Clips spreading everywhere. Wait, she's actually good. Why is she this comfortable? How does a rookie sound like this? Suddenly, it wasn't cute anymore. It wasn't hype anymore. It was authority. And authority is dangerous, especially when no one planned for it. What fans didn't see was what was happening behind the scenes. Phones were already lighting up. Front office staff were texting each other in real time. Are you watching this? Why is she on prime time? Since when did this happen?
No more iconic figure in basketball, in women's game right now, or the game in general, about Caitlin Clark. In the game in general, that's all I gotta say is that that is not something that the WNBA will be happy with. We saw it. The WNBPA said that Alyssa Thomas was the reason why people are watching. And by the way, it's not even, people are like, oh, it was the finals about Alyssa Thomas. No. They literally said it wasn't just the playoffs, but our regular season broke records as fans went to watch Alyssa Thomas.
For years, there had been an unspoken rule. WNBA stars stayed in their lane. The NBA stayed in theirs. Separate worlds, separate attention, separate money. Nobody crossed that line, especially not rookies. But nobody told Caitlin Clark that rule existed. Or maybe she just didn't care. While others waited their turn, she walked straight onto the biggest stage in basketball media, like the doors had never been locked. Then came the moment nobody expected. The broadcast cut to the arena feed, Madison Square Garden. Packed, loud, historic. The kind of place where legends are made. And the crowd wasn't chanting for the NBA stars. They weren't even chanting for the game. They were chanting her name. Caitlin, 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 on an NBA night. Think about how wild that is. A WNBA rookie getting louder cheers than NBA veterans inside Madison Square Garden. That's not normal. That's not marketing. That's takeover energy. And takeover energy scares people. especially the ones in charge. Because suddenly this isn't a guest appearance. It isn't a cross promo. It's something else entirely. It feels like a shift, and when shift happens, control starts to slip.
Biggest star is saying she's confident a CBA will get done. Then there were some other topics hit up on the broadcast as well, including her wanting to play at Madison Square Garden. You know, that is where she was broadcasting from, the Knicks and the Lakers. It is a great arena. I've spent a lot of time in the Garden.
Lakers and the Knicks taking center stage here for the 302nd overall meeting. And for the first time ever, we've got basketball night in America, the first Sunday in February. And we're joined by our special correspondent. Welcome to the team, Caitlin Clark. Yes.
Welcome. MSG for Knicks games. It's pretty cool.
I know, it's her first Knicks game.
Inside the WNBA offices, insiders would later say the same word kept coming up: unplanned. Nobody planned for her to dominate the broadcast. Nobody planned for the ratings to spike. Nobody planned for NBA fans to start saying, "Who is she? I'm watching for her." And that's when the fear set in. Because if fans follow her, they don't need the league. If networks call her directly, they don't need the league. If sponsors want her face, they don't need the league. And the moment a player no longer needs the system gets nervous. Veterans felt it too. Imagine grinding for 10 years, empty seats, commercial flights, low pay, constantly fighting for respect. Then a 22-year-old walks in and, in one night, gets more national exposure than you've had in your entire career. That doesn't feel inspiring. That feels personal. That feels like being replaced. So the whispers started. This is too much. They're forcing her everywhere. It's just hype, but the numbers kept climbing. Every segment she touched saw ratings jump. Every clip she appeared in sent engagement through the roof. Not slightly, massively. And it exposed the one thing nobody wanted to admit. She wasn't riding the league's popularity. The league was riding hers.
There's a new shooter from Indiana. I'm the third best shooter in the state of Indiana now. Okay. It goes Caitlin, Tyrese, and now myself.
We'll have to get Tyrese's opinion on that. I'm not sure Tyrese would agree.
Right here. She's taking over for me right now.
Into the arena.
Well, I feel fortunate enough. A lot of the arenas we go into, a lot of people are cheering for our team, which is pretty nice.
Snap.
But there are some road games. I think even the Liberty fans, San Francisco, the Valkyries have a great crowd. Like, you want to take them out of it right away. You want to make them call the first time out. I think that's kind of what we always talk about. But that's what makes it fun. And I like what he said. If you're a star, like, these are the games you show up for. And that's really true. Like, these are the games that just mean a little bit more. Like MSG on a Sunday night. Like,
That's backwards. And backwards is dangerous. Then something even stranger happened. She wasn't just good on camera. She started controlling the room. Hosts asked her questions. Guests deferred to her takes. Former NBA players nodded along as she broke down plays. A rookie teaching veterans on national television. That's not normal. That's dominance. And dominance creates enemies fast. Because suddenly it doesn't look how far women's basketball has come. It looks like, why didn't we see this coming? Nothing embarrasses executives more than missing the future. And insiders later shared something brutal. NBC wasn't even the first call. Another network hesitated, delayed, overthought it. A classic mistake. While they were still evaluating, NBC moved fast. Signed, booked, done. Overnight, they owned the story, which meant someone else missed it badly. And when you miss a generational star, people remember. That's where it got tense. When the show ended, the silence was loud. No celebration. No congratulations. Just a room that felt like it had watched history shift and couldn't decide whether to clap or panic.
Figure in basketball in the women's game right now, or the game in general. So we said, let's have a bigger conversation. And it's just so crazy that it feels like every other sport will just come out and say what it is besides the WNBA. The NBA is not scared to acknowledge that there's no more iconic figure in basketball. Not just the women's game, but possibly the game in general than Caitlin Clark. But we would not hear that in the WNBA space. We wouldn't hear that from WNBA media. But the NBA media and the NBA and the league itself is not scared to say it. Like we've seen it when Caitlin does golf events. It just seems like every league but her own is not scared to say the truth. But
because deep down, everyone realized the same thing. Caitlin Clark didn't debut on NBC. She didn't guest star. She didn't cameo. She crossed over. And once someone crosses over like that, you can't put them back in a box. She wasn't just a WNBA player anymore. She was a basketball figure, period. No labels, no limits. And when you reach that level, you stop asking for permission. You start choosing platforms, choosing networks, choosing opportunities. That's power, real power. And organizations hate when players have it, because power creates leverage, and leverage shifts control. And control is everything. So when the lights shut off that night, the crowd went home and the clips kept spreading, one uncomfortable thought lingered inside league offices. If she did this on her first NBC appearance, what happens next time? Because this didn't feel like a peek. It felt like a warning shot. The start of something bigger, something the system wasn't ready for. And maybe that's why nobody wanted to say it out loud, even though everyone was thinking it. This wasn't just a debut. This wasn't just TV. This wasn't just hype.
It doesn't matter what arena it is, what venue, home, road. The biggest thing is Caitlin Clark being back playing basketball and healthy. But, her crack there was good, too. The Liberty probably aren't going to want to move over. She knows the history. The Liberty were owned by the Garden, Dolan, and MSG. They are now owned by Joe Tsai and the, play over at Barclays in Brooklyn. So there's no chance the Liberty would ever play in Madison Square Garden if you know the dynamics between the Knicks and the Nets in the city.
This was the night Caitlin Clark stepped onto a stage bigger than her league and made it look effortless. And when someone makes history look easy, that's when you know the game didn't just shift. It changed forever.